Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. I am Zia Hamid. I welcome you to English grade 8 video lessons. Now we are on our unit number 4, as you already know. In this video lesson we are going to talk about an SLO of grammar. This will be our lecture number 2 and the topic is verbs and their types. Now let's read our students learning outcome to see what we are supposed to do and how we can achieve it by the end of our lesson. So our SLO is distinguish and use action verbs, linking verbs, sensing and feeling verbs, mental and thinking verbs, and verbs of possession. So now all these are different types of verbs. We will be able to distinguish, differentiate between all these and use these action verbs, linking verbs, sensing and feeling verbs, mental and thinking verbs, and finally verbs of possession. All these type of verbs will be covered in this video lesson. So my dear learners, here is a vertical linkage of this SLO with the previous grade that you have already studied. I hope that you can retain most of it. Now moving on with our brainstorming session. Now today's brainstorming session has a very interesting question, that how to describe an action. Now, how do you describe an action? What are the words that you use and what are they called? Think about them. You are already familiar with them. You just need to think a little bit. So now let's move forward with the topic, which is about verbs and importantly their different types that we covered in the students learning outcome. Now let's talk about verbs and let's recall our definition of a verb. So a verb is a word that shows an action or state of being. So verbs are basically words and they show us action or just a state of being. For example, run, eat, play, all these are verbs that are telling us action. An act of running, an act of eating or playing, all these are being shown here by using these words which we call verbs. For example, he plays soccer on weekends. So can you identify the verb over here? Yes. Play is our verb. So it is telling an action. Now let's move forward with our types of verbs. Now we have a verb called action verb. It tells us the act that was performed or is performed. Now verbs that show physical or mental actions, they are called your action verbs. So verbs that are showing physical or mental actions. So some of them can be seen with your eyes and some are just felt like mental actions. For example, run, jump, eat, think, all these are action verbs. These three are our physical actions and to think or thinking is our mental action. He jumped over the fence. Let's look at this example. So can you identify the action verb? Yes. Jumped. Jumping is an action. Whether it's used in the first form or the second form, it stays the same. It is a verb that is showing an action. Now let's talk about another kind of verb, which is sense verb. Can you guess what it is? Yes, it's about your senses. So a sense verb is a verb that describes one of the 5 senses. For example, all these kind of words, they are basically our verbs like sight, hearing, smell, touch, taste. So all these require an action, and these verbs are related to our senses, hence we call them sense verb. Now, let's talk about another kind of verb, which is linking verb. Yes, it is about linking. So now, a verb that connects the subject to more information about the subject. So, if a verb is connecting us to the subject to give more information, we call it our linking verb. For example, am, is, seem, or seems, all these are linking verbs. Let's look at an example. He feels happy. Now, this verb feel is giving us more information about the subject over here, in this case, which is a pronoun, and it's telling us about the state of the subject or the action. So, in the word feels, in the word, in the sentence, he feels happy, the word feel is our linking verb. It's linking our subject with more information. Now, let's talk about another kind of verb, which is feeling verb. Can you guess what it is? It's very evident by the name. It's related to our feelings. So, a feeling verb is a verb that describes an emotion or a state of mind. For example, love, hate, fear, all these are verbs. But what kind of verbs are they? They are our feeling verbs because they are describing our emotion or just a state of mind. So, love, hate, fear, all these are feeling verbs. For example, I love pizza. So, this is what you actually feel about or have an emotion about the food pizza. So, that's why we used our feeling verb over here. And our feeling verb, love, over here is giving more information about our subject, which is a pronoun here. So, in the same way, like a linking verb, this verb is also giving information, but it gives the information which is regarding a feeling or an emotion. Now, let's talk about verbs of possession or possession verbs. So, possession verb is a verb that shows ownership or possession. If you have something, if you are the owner or something is in your possession or someone else's possession, to show this kind of action, we use our possession verb. For example, have, own, possesses, all these are verbs, but they are showing possession. So we call them possession verbs. For example, they own a house. So owning here or own here is it's an action, it's a state of being, but it is a possession. It is showing possession that they own a house. So it's again telling us more about the subject and giving more information. Now, let's talk about mental verb, which is a verb that has meaning related to the concept. For example, decide, suggest, or to plan, etc. All these are our mental verbs. Let's talk about thinking verbs. Thinking verb is a verb that relates to the process of thinking. For example, know, believe, think, understand, all these are verbs. They are happening inside the mind, so they are mental kind of verbs, but they are related to thinking, so we call them thinking verbs. For example, he believes in fairies. Now, the thinking verb over here is believe, because it is something that we have because we are individuals who think. So that's why it's a thinking verb. Now, After learning about all these different types of verbs along with examples, here is a classroom activity that you can solve. This is from your book, page 32. You have to choose the right option for each underlined verb, whether it's a sense verb, feeling verb, thinking or mental verb, etc. Is a continuation of the classroom activity, and we are here with our simulation link that you can watch after this video lesson, and you will learn more about different types of verbs. The worksheet is attached, and the homework is to write about your journey of museum. Enrich the text through the use of possession and feeling verbs. So now that we have learned all different types of verbs mentioned in the SLO, now it's time to use that in your homework, the possession and feeling verbs. We are here at the end. I would like to introduce some resources for you. All these resources are available in the description of the video. My dear learners, thank you for listening. I hope that now you are very much clear about verbs and their different types like sense verb, mental, thinking, feeling, etc. And you can utilize them and recognize them easily if they are spoken in front of you or you read them. Till the next video lesson, Allah Hafiz.